Excellent. It says that meeting is now streaming.
Yes, yes. All right. I think we're live. Thank you for joining the 1199 SEIU COVID-19 vaccine Q&A. As we continue to fight against this virus, it's important for us to create space to share information about the safety and efficacy of the vaccines so people can make an informed decision for themselves and their families. Please help me in welcoming Michelle Guzman, a PCA from the City of Lynn and community activist. Michelle has been a leader in our union since 2015 and continues to lift up her voice on the issues that impact her as a caregiver and a community member. She has been an active member in WILD and other community organizations that really lift up the voices of workers and caregivers. Michelle will be engaging with Dr. Dunn tonight, asking questions that you've submitted. Dr. Dunn is the Chief Medical Officer of the 1199 Benefit Fund, which provides comprehensive, self-insured, self-administered healthcare benefits to more than 400,000 healthcare workers, including many of us on this, watching this Facebook Live. Prior to joining the funds in 2016, Dr. Dunn served as Senior Vice President for Medical and Professional Affairs and CMO at New York City Health and Hospitals and as CMO for Metro Plus Health Plan. He practiced as a primary care physician for many years before embarking upon a career that shaped public policy at the state and federal levels. Dr. Dunn was an attending physician at Boston City Hospital, which many of us know now as Boston Medical Center, and later as an assistant dean and assistant professor of medicine at Boston University School of Medicine. Dr. Dunn also served as a deputy commissioner at the Massachusetts Department of Public Health and senior health policy advisor to Senator Edward M. Kennedy. He's also has a lot of other Massachusetts roots, receiving his Bachelor of Science from MIT, a Doctor of Medicine from Cornell University Medical College, and a Master of Public Health from the Harvard School of Public Health. So please help me welcome Dr. Dunn and Michelle Guzman.
Yay.
So Michelle, I'll let you kick it off to share your journey about getting vaccinated and what it means to you as a caregiver, but also as someone who's, looking to protect your family and those you care for. Michelle?
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with sharing this space with Dr. Van Dunn. And I am a PCA, personal care attendant for a consumer, and I've been a PCA since 2015. I have to say that at the beginning, I was hesitant to be vaccinated. One of the things is that I have asthma, and during the early stages of the vaccine, I was having a lot of reactions, and it was very hard for me to breathe. And with all the media saying all the secondary effects that you will have with the vaccines, I was concerned because, as Dr. Van Dam is going to explain, when you have asthma, if you don't breathe, you might just not be in this world. And I have a son, and I take care of my mother too. So, my family was at stake. And so I can tell you honestly, from my personal point of view, it took me a while. I saw the commercials. I saw 1199 making all these efforts in our community to get people vaccinated. But I was one of those that did not want to vaccinate it. My first one, because it was fear. And the second was because I did not educate myself. And I think that is one of the crucial things here. So not to give everything away, but I educate myself. I said, that's it. My asthma came down. It was stable. I was breathing. I was okay. And then I said, okay, I think it's time for me to pay attention to what they are saying. And I did my own research about it. But the other thing was that a very close friend of mine called me, and he said, listen, Delta is coming, and Delta is like COVID-19 with asteroids. It's really powerful. If that gets to you, maybe you didn't die from COVID-19, but you're going to die from that variant. And, it was the conversation about kids going back to school, if it's safe for them, if it's safe for me. And And that was when I said, okay, that's it. I think that if the vaccine will not protect me 100%, at least it will prevent from the Delta and all these variants probably to come and hurt me more. And not only me, because I also, people very close to me depend on it. And so it was that thing that one was the education, second about my concern about the Delta, and third about my responsibility as head of household to be responsible for what I needed to do for my own family. So to make the long story short, it took me at my journey, and at the end, I decided to vaccinate myself, but also my son. He is 13 years old, and he qualified, and we both did it. So that was my journey, and definitely was something important that I had to do, but it took me stages. And that's what I want to say, that maybe you're not 100% convinced. I understand. One of those was fear, but the second one was not being educated and not understanding really what these vaccines were all about. So that was my journey. And with that, I think that we can start with the questions right away, unless Dr. Van Dunn, you want to say something?
I want to say, Maria, you did a fantastic job. You really did, in giving your personal journey to getting the vaccine and talking about the effects and how you feel about it. And it's an example that I think so highly of 1199 SEIU for having these events, because it allows our members to ask questions and to allay their fears, to make them feel more comfortable with the decision they're making about getting the vaccine. And, I echo Maria, I got the vaccine, and, I had the typical side effects, sore arm, a little fever, chills, but other than that, I was fine. And I know people worry about the complications from the vaccine, but if you talk to people who have gotten the vaccine, they can tell you about their experience, and there are people who you trust. That's where the information you should use to go forward and get the vaccine. So yeah. Again, Maria, I applaud you.
Thank you. And, and in the first shot, I did not feel a thing. I mean, I think the nurse had such a beautiful arm, that hand, that when she put it on me, I did not feel, I'm like, are you done? And she's like, yeah, you're done. I'm like, okay. I only had in my body, and that's the other thing I wanted to address in this case, is that everybody is different. Some react one way or the other, and just because this person had a very bad reaction, I'm going to have the same. In my case, the first shot, I didn't feel anything. I was tired, probably the day off. But the next day you work and do things, and obviously your body is tired. There's something inside you. The second shot, I had a little bit of symptoms, but nothing major. So let's talk about this, doctor. Let's talk about some of the questions that some people will have, and then your will bring some closure and answer some of those questions about it. So the first question I have, and these are questions that have been collected by our members. Can you explain what is the difference of this vaccine? And I want you to really address or emphasize that it's not the same as a flu vaccine, now that everybody's talking about it. And what is the difference of the different types of vaccine that are in the market right now?
Right. Well, I'll talk about the vaccines that have been approved, either fully approved, because the Pfizer vaccine is fully approved, and the Moderna and J&J who've got emergency use authorization. Now, the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are what's called messenger RNA. And that's just the technology they use to make the vaccine. There is no DNA, there's no RNA in there. What it is that the messenger RNA provides information to instruct the cells that produce antibodies to keep you from getting sick. Will react to the messenger RNA vaccine. and you'll become immunized and immune. The J&J vaccine is a totally different type of vaccine. It is what's called a viral vector vaccine. What that means is they take adenovirus, which causes a lot of the common colds that we have, and they've inactivated. So it's not an active virus. And what they do is they provide instructions into the inactivated virus. And then when you're vaccinated, it teaches the body that if you see something like this, the spike protein, which is on the COVID virus surface, you make antibodies so that you can keep them from getting infected. And when the vaccines came out, they were really highly effective, and that they were the Johnson & Johnson, which is one shot. So there are people who are needle phobia and don't want to take a vaccine, is just one shot. And it's really very effective. It was 72% effective when it first hit the market. And then we have the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, which are 2 doses. And the Pfizer is a first dose, and then 3 weeks later, you get the second dose. And then the Moderna is first dose, and then 4 weeks later, you get the second dose. And what's always important is that when you get the vaccine, it doesn't immediately protect you. It takes time. And so that's why it's really important if you get the 2-dose vaccine, you get both doses, because then you'll get maximum protection. And usually after you've completed your series, so after the third week after getting the Pfizer, the J&J vaccine, you're protected. You've made the instructions to your body to make antibodies if you see the COVID virus. And for the Moderna and for the Pfizer, it's going to be 2 weeks later. So for the Pfizer, since it's going to be the first week and the third week, then the 5th week, you're protected. So you've got to still maintain staying safe and washing hands, wearing a mask, and social distancing. For the Moderna, it's 1 week, and then the 4th week for the second shot. So 6 weeks after you've gotten the first shot, you're fully protected against the COVID virus. So don't go out and party after you've got your first dose of the vaccine, please.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that sometimes it's funny because you protect yourself, right? But then after you think that you have the vaccine, and then you said, okay, I'm fully guarded, and you're not. So obviously be cautious about it. But I wanted to also mention on when I had to decide which one, for example, the Pfizer or the Moderna, one aspect that made me choose one of them over the other is also who, what companies were involved, right? And so in the particular case of the Moderna, they did it along with the national, something about allergies.
Yeah,
I don't have the full name.
And
Could you say that again?
infection allergy. The National Institute of Allergy Infections.
Thank you. That was for me, that was a decision. And the way I thought was, okay, I have allergies, I have asthma, I have this other, allergies. Because they did it with them, I hope that they took into the consideration all these other factors. I mean, we have one of the best scientists in the United States, and I'm sure they did put some thought on this ones, and especially with people that they know, and especially this organization that they consider the allergies. So that, in my personal experience, and obviously I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, and each body, let's say again, each body is different. That was a factor that made me choose Moderna over the Pfizer. But at the same time, I know that the Pfizer has other qualities and other things. You don't have to wait 4 weeks, you wait only 3 weeks over this. And then let's see, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, can you talk about people are concerned about the secondary effects. What is that we know now that we didn't know before? And I think it takes a risk, but the risk is not greater than, having a ventilator, breathing with a ventilator, or, going into coma with all this things. So what would you say to those that are concerned about the secondary effects?
There have been, one of the things that the government is doing is that they're tracking everyone who's had an adverse reaction to the vaccine. So they have a vaccine adverse event reporting system. And one of the things they do is if there is an event that occurs that is out of the ordinary, they will get the chart, they will talk to the doctor, they'll talk to the patient to try to identify, was it from the vaccine or was it for something else? So we heard a lot about the worst adverse effects. One, with the J&J vaccine, we heard that there were women who got the vaccine who developed blood clots. When they investigated, they found that the incidence of blood clots in the people who got the Pfizer, the J&J vaccine, were the same as people who didn't receive any vaccines. So they didn't feel that that was a major risk, but they felt that it was enough to be able to report it. With the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine, there were cases of myocarditis and pericarditis. This is like an inflammation of the heart muscle and of the sac around the heart. And they found that it was about the same as background, and that the folks who got it because of they felt from the vaccine fully recovered, and there were no lasting effects. And so they really feel that we've gotten over 180 million people who've been vaccinated with at least one vaccine. And they've tracked all of the adverse side effects. I mean, there were people who were worried, well, I'm worried about Bell's palsy. Bell's palsy was extremely low. There were individuals who were concerned about developing Guillain-Barré. It's, again, very, very low. And they talk about that the risk of having someone get hit by a car or get hit by lightning or get killed by a thunderstorm or tornado is much, much higher than it is for having a real adverse reaction from the COVID vaccine. So it really has been proven to be safe. Are there side effects? Yes, there are the normal side effects that Maria has just talked about, where you get pain in the arm, you can get some muscle aches, get some fevers. I think the worst thing that I got when I got the vaccine is I had just fatigue. All of a sudden I was talking and enjoying myself, and then I felt really like I was drained and I just fell asleep. So yes, there are some side effects, but they're minor compared to what happens if you get the COVID. Because the death rate is so high. We've had over 700,000 people die from COVID. And the data now says that people who are unvaccinated are 11 times more likely to get hospitalized and 10 times more likely to die than people who have been vaccinated. So it shows that the vaccine is effective and it is safe. Maria, I think you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Michelle, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, I think that effective and safe are the two main words in this discussion. But I want to go back a little bit of what you said about the adverse system, and that was one of the things that I actually pay attention to, because again, I had asthma and I was having a lot of reactions. I couldn't breathe and stuff like that. So that's why that was another reason why I postponed taking my vaccine. So two of the questions was like, okay, what what will be your suggestion? Like, if you know you have an allergy, or you're concerned for whatever reason it is, if you have a good relationship with your doctor, and especially the local community or the hospital, I know that they keep you there for 15 minutes, but I have seen people staying there a little bit longer, and then they inform some relatives that they took the vaccine. If something happens, please check on me and stuff like that. So they get prepared. That's the one thing. And then the other thing is the adverse system. I saw this. So could you please explain what that is?
Yes, the CDC has a registry. And if there are any adverse reactions to a drug, a vaccine, they collect that information. And when they collect that information, they get all the information about the person. They get what the side effects that they had. They get the medical record to review to make sure that it wasn't from the vaccine. And then they come up with a report that says, these are things that we found. And they keep track of the number of people who've had reactions to the vaccine. I think one of the things that you pointed out, which is really important for people, is that we really want people who get the vaccine to be safe. And one of the things that I can say about the vaccine is that it's not made with eggs. There are no eggs involved in the production of the vaccine. So if you have an egg allergy, you're okay. And if you look at all the information out there, there aren't any food allergies that would also make you not eligible to take the vaccine. Because one of the questions is, what's in the vaccine? I'm really worried about taking something I don't know anything about. I mean, since there are two vaccines, they're produced differently. So I'm going to talk about the Moderna and Pfizer, and then I'm going to talk about the J&J vaccine. So what are the major components of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine? One, I mentioned the messenger RNA, but it's not really messenger RNA. It's a protein that provides information to the cells to make antibodies. The other thing they have in there is what's called nanolipids. So people hear nanolipids and they say, oh my God, there's a nanobots, they're going to take over my body. No, it's really is a tiny fat molecule, and it helps keep the vaccine together, so you get even distribution when you get the injection. The other things that are in there are salts and sugars. And in the Moderna vaccine, the difference is that they have what is it? Hold on, acrylic acid and acid stabilizers. But again, they're both inert, so it's not going to react to the body. Now, if you look at the J&J vaccine, as I mentioned, it's has an adenovirus particle, but it is deactivated. It can't get you sick with the cold, or can't get sick with COVID. The other thing it has, which I really didn't know until I started looking at it has ethanol in it. Maybe makes you feel a little better, so you don't think about the pain that it may cause. It has salts and sugars. It has citric acid, and it also has a stabilizer, like the fat that's in the Moderna vaccine, in the Pfizer vaccine. So therefore, there shouldn't be adverse reactions based on the ingredients in the vaccine.
Michelle, you are on mute.
Yep. So thank you for that. And I think that was one of the questions, like if I am allergic to eggs, what could happen to me? In one of the, and actually before I go into that question, what will be, you mentioned there are a lot of information out there, but not all of that information is accurate and it's correct. Right. So I know that the first, the most valid information is going to be reputable information is the CDC.
CDC,
But
yes.
in my case, for example, I did not only stay with CDC, I went out there and looked for reports and stuff like that. As a PCA that I was working in the healthcare industry, I know that there are certain, the Mayo Clinic, these other entities. So I definitely will encourage our listeners that it's not only the CDC, go into other medical entities that have this information. And which one, I mentioned Mayo, but do you have another reputable source that we can go and base on those reports?
One of the things I would always recommend is that most of the hospitals have a website, and on their website, they talk extensively about COVID vaccines to educate not only their members, but also their patients, but also their staff. And so Mass General has a very good site that talks about COVID vaccines and COVID. So I would always encourage individuals to check with the hospitals they believe in and trust in, because they will have valid information on their website about the COVID vaccines and COVID. Okay. Because you're right. If you go to the Mayo Clinic, if you go to another place that has a good website that talks about is the FDA, because they had to approve it. And one of the things that you'll find on the FDA's website for people who are concerned about the ingredients, they have a fact sheet of all of the ingredients, all of the possible side effects. So that's another way of getting really good, accurate information on the vaccine.
Okay, and the Moderna and the Pfizer, it's a protein, so it's not any virus or anything like that. It's like you say, a messenger, because that's the biggest difference on that one. Okay, thank you, Dr. Van Dunn. Let's talk about a different audience, different people in our PCA program, and also healthcare. What will be does the vaccine impact fertility, or how the CDC issue about the guidance for pregnant women to be vaccinated?
Yes, and I'll start with why the CDC and the Association of Obstetrician and Gynecologists and the Society for Fetal Medicine Specialists, they all recommend first that pregnant women get vaccinated. And the reason why they believe it's safe, the data shows it's safe with pregnant women, and also unvaccinated pregnant women who've gotten COVID have lost their pregnancies, and some have even died. So they weigh the risk associated with getting the vaccine versus the risk of not getting the vaccine. And they found overwhelmingly all the evidence supported it. And one of the things they also found out is that in women who are breastfeeding who got the vaccine, the breast milk had antibodies in it against the COVID-19, which is also really important. There has been no data in any of the scientific journals that says that the COVID vaccine causes any problems with infertility. In fact, one of the things that may scare men is that men who have gotten COVID have seen a decrease in their sperm count. So that's a good reason why men should think about getting
the vaccine. Yeah. And I actually have a very one of my friends is young, and but she's in her 30s right now, and I remember that we were having this conversation, and she's like that she doesn't want to take the vaccine because she is concerned about fertility. What can we say to those young ladies that they are working out, and then they are concerned that some is going to affect their way of fertility and giving birth and all that stuff?
That's a very good question, because I know how important that is. but I can only tell you from all the evidence that's been published or presented at medical society meetings that they have found no impact on fertility. We've only had the vaccine now for over a year. And so that's really short term. There has been no evidence. And so they don't feel that it really will impact on infertility, that people will still remain fertile.
Okay, I guess that it will be, you mentioned a study on one of a clinic, an obstetrician clinic. Can you repeat the name of that?
Yeah, it's the Obstetricians Society for Obstetricians and Gynecologists. They're the major group for the OBGYNs. And they have strongly recommended that pregnant women and people who are worried about fertility issues should get the vaccine.
Okay, maybe Marlicia, we can try to find a link and then post it after, just because I know that there are some, that a cluster of our PCAs are very young. And then that was precisely a conversation that I had with this close friend, and she's like, no, I want to have kids later. I'm like, but I don't really think it is a problem, but okay, that's good. Now, let's talk about the people that unfortunately for X or Y reason, they contracted COVID. And I have heard this also from some consumers that if I already got COVID, I have immunity against that. And so I don't need to I don't have to have the vaccine. That's one. And the second is that I have seen people that they have COVID and they have had it for the second time. So can we break that myth that just because you have COVID, you're not exposed to it, or you're immune?
You just did an excellent job in describing the myth and what the science shows. And it really is, we were concerned when COVID first came out that we were seeing some reinfections in people who've already had COVID. And one of the reasons why we're recommending that people who've had COVID get the COVID vaccine is that we've seen that people who had COVID and got the vaccine more than double, triple their antibody levels. Also the important thing is, remember, when they got COVID, that was the original strain. Then we've had the UK strain, the South African strain, the Brazilian strain. Now we're dealing with Delta, and Delta is 2 times as infectious as the original strain of the COVID-19. And so that makes people who've had it before possibly getting it again if they're not vaccinated.
Okay, and so one person has the COVID, and then it has it for the second time. What is it that now, for example, in the immune system, it's weak, and now they have the vaccine? Wouldn't that affect because the immune system is so weak? What would you think that will be
the purpose of the vaccine is to give the immune system a boost. And we've seen that people who've had COVID and got the vaccine got a tremendous boost in their antibody protection. And we've seen it in people now who, because they've done the research and why they're approved the Pfizer booster, is that we find that over time, and it happens in people who've been infected naturally with COVID, that their antibody levels start to decrease. And the only way to get it up again is to get the vaccine, to provide more instructions to the body to produce antibodies if they come in contact with the virus. And because Delta virus variant is 99% of the cases of COVID in the United States right now. That wasn't the case when people got infected in December, January, February, March. So the concern is that even if you had normal response from when you got COVID and developed antibodies, you still are at risk for getting infected again if you don't get vaccinated. And we found that even the vaccine is effective against the Delta variant. And we can't say that about people's natural immunity to COVID, providing that same protection.
Thank you, Dr. Van Dunn. Let's talk about Delta just for a moment, and then maybe just close out with the booster. Healthcare workers have been prioritized to receive the booster shots. So, as you say, I think you expressed it very clearly, that was the original COVID-19, but then, a lot of variants and stuff like that. And it's incredible how this virus have been mutated themselves and build resistance in other things. But let's talk about Delta and how is it affecting right now in the Northeast. And then what also has to do with the flu for that. So what's the difference and what that has to relate with the flu season now?
The first thing I wanted to say is the reason why we're having the variants is that we have people who are unvaccinated because they have a host so they can reproduce. And viruses are not very smart. They make errors. And a lot of times their errors when they reproduce make them extinct. They die out because something essential is gone. In some cases, the error can be one that makes us more infectious, more transmissible, more deadly. And that's what's happened with the Delta variant. Since the Delta variant, we've had the Lambda variant, and now we have the Mu variant. But they haven't made a stake in the United States yet. They're less than 0.3% of cases in the United States so far. So it really is the Delta variant. And the concern is that the vaccine still has effectiveness against the Delta variant. It's not to the level we were seeing 95, 96%. It's now around 60 to 70%. So it's lost some effectiveness against the Delta virus, but it still provides protection because the goal has always been to prevent you from getting sick enough that you get admitted to the hospital or dying from COVID. And even with the variant out there, the vaccine is preventing that. But for people who are not vaccinated, as I mentioned, they have 10 times more likely to die than someone who's vaccinated. They're 10 times more likely, 11 times more likely to be hospitalized because of the virus. And that's now. That's not back in January, February. That's what's happening. And the only way we're going to get more variants is more people don't get vaccinated, because you need someone who's not vaccinated to be able to the virus to continue to reproduce.
I want to stop you there. What you just said, it's a light bulb, it's enlightenment moment, because if you're not vaccinated, you could be one of the transmitters or one of the hosts of this COVID-19 being transformed or transmitted or transmit the Delta to other people. So I think that also another big reason that you need to be vaccinated is because you are at risk to have it yourself. But then sometimes, I have seen this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Van Dunn, is that you might not get sick, but then you are, how they call it, a carrier. Is that true?
That's correct. That's correct.
So that's another reason why you also need to be vaccinated. Maybe not because, will affect your health, but you can be a transporter or a carrier of this Delta with you really knowing it. Okay. Very, very, very serious. So that was, for me, that was the Delta. It was not COVID, it was Delta. Like, okay. I think I'm gonna have to protect my family. And last but not least, Doctor, just to be conscious about the time, but what will be this other, the booster that they're talking about, how, and I understand, I really think that it is a different animal that we're dealing with right now, and what that entitles for us.
Right. Well, first thing is that Pfizer presented to the FDA to get okay for the booster, because that's the only way that they can market the booster shot. The advisory committee looked at the Pfizer recommendation, because their recommendations for everyone who were 12 years and older. And what happened is that the advisory committee said no, that it shouldn't be for everyone, that they agreed that people who were 65 years and older, or people who were immunocompromised, should get the vaccine. So the FDA gave the approval for that. The CDC then sets the guidelines. The CDC said, no, we also have to consider people who are at risk, and those are our first responders. And therefore, they felt that healthcare workers should get the booster shot, no matter that they were not 65 or they didn't have a chronic disease, because they were at risk because of their job, because they're on the front lines, taking their life in their hands to make sure people stay well. And I thought that was an excellent recommendation from the CDC.
Okay, and so, in my case, I work as a PCA, but I took Moderna first. What would you, for those people that did not Moderna, take Pfizer, but
Moderna and Pfizer and Moderna and J&J have just now submitted their request to the FDA to offer the booster for the individuals who got their vaccine, because the CDC and the FDA is not recommending mixing and matching. Although I know some people who have said, I need the booster, I don't care if I got Moderna, I'm going to get the Pfizer vaccine. But they're doing studies to see whether or not mixing and matching works. So they're not ready to say it's okay to do it. But I can tell you that the CDC and the FDA now have the information from J&J and Moderna for a booster shot. So I can see that happening within the next month, that it will be approved.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So Marisha, what do you think? Any last comments?
I mean, it's been a great conversation. Thank you, Michelle and Dr. Dunn, for sharing your insight and your experience thus far. We have a few questions from the Facebook Live, one specifically around the impact of the COVID-19 vaccines on menstrual cycles. So not necessarily fertility, but any potential changes to a person's menstrual cycle.
Okay, I can only say that I have not heard or read anything about effects on the menstrual cycle. What I will do is I will research and talk to the experts, and I'd be very happy if you send me the name of the individual asking the question. Now I'll have the answer for her tomorrow, or him tomorrow.
No, that's perfect. And also, there were some questions about, waning immunity, and especially what you guys all answered, as well as, if someone's allergic to sulfur, which is, I think you mentioned one of the ingredients, what should they do? Should they talk to their doctor?
No, the first thing is I would go to the CDC or FDA website. They have the fact sheet on every vaccine that's available, the Moderna, Pfizer, and J&J, and it lists all of the ingredients. So you should take those ingredients to your doctor and say, I'm thinking about getting the vaccine. I'm concerned about my sulfur allergy. Is it safe for me to get it? I would say, without knowing the history, that is not going to be a counterindication to getting the vaccine, because there really are no sulfur in the vaccine. So it would be safe. But if they have some other underlying disease and are taking some other medicine, then really, it's really important for them to talk to their doctor. I play a doctor because I am a doctor, but I always want people to feel comfortable with the decisions that they make. I try to give them the facts. I try to direct them to where to get the information they need to make a decision. And one of the most important people is your own doctor, because your own doctor knows everything about you, knows your allergy history, knows what's in the vaccine to be able to say, oh, no, you're okay, it's not a problem. You're allergic eggs, you're okay, there's no eggs in the vaccine. So yes, so if you're really considering doing it and you really want a final authority, then talk with your doctor or your nurse. I think that most patients trust their nurse more than their doctor. And I'm proud to say I do too. I trust my nurse because they've never misled me. So you talk to the health provider that you feel most comfortable with, and that can include a PCA.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Thank you. When when I went to the description of the ingredients, there were obviously some names that I was not familiar with, and that was precisely what I did, Dr. Van Dunn. I actually wrote it, and I called, in this case was my allergy doctor, and I called him up and I said, this is what the vaccine has. Am I allergic to this? Yes or no? And so, he explained to me, and he definitely piqued my concern. Yes, because sometimes we go to the CDC description, and as you say, fact sheets, and we find these names that you're like, what is that?
Yes. I never heard of this.
Exactly. So then, like my friend says, plain English, Michelle, plain English. And so I didn't know. And, even though I Googled what it was, they said something about if other type of medication. And then I just asked that specific question to my doctor, and he said, no, you're fine. So I guess we definitely can go and ask that extra question and have that reassurance from our own doctor.
And that's really important, because you want to be sure that the vaccine is right for you. All I can tell you is the safety and the efficacy of the vaccine, but it really is a personal decision, and you always know that there's help out there to can answer your questions. That's why I always participate in these forums, because there are a lot of misinformation going around, and I want to give people the correct information. And then I want them to hold me as they would hold anyone else. Talk to their doctor. I heard from Dr. Dunn, he said X, Y, and Z. What do you think? And your doctor will give you, if you have a great relationship with your doctor will not lie to you, will give you the truth, will give you the facts, and help you make a decision that's best for you.
You also can rely on your family and your friends, because I remember a friend of mine was very concerned. She lives by herself. She called me and she said, I'm going to take the vaccine tomorrow. Please monitor me. So that was another thing that you also can do with your loved ones. You let them know, or in this case, another friend had her sister is a nurse, and she actually told her that she was going to have the vaccine, and she monitored her over the weekend. So I guess that it's natural to feel fear, right? It's natural, but don't let the fear paralyze you in this case. And second of all, stop you from protecting yourself and others. So I think that is excellent, Dr. Van Dunn. Thank you so much for sharing with your information and your
thank
knowledge.
You, and Michelle, you were great. It really is always important.
We broke some myths, so definitely that we did our good job. Marlisha.
I think this was a great conversation. And like you said, I think we broke some myths and really hopefully created space for those who have delayed vaccination to feel more empowered to make the decision that's best for themselves and their family. And as a healthcare workers union, we know we can lean on each other and other and other healthcare providers to really be trusted messengers and to share what our experience have been, so we can help people feel like they're not alone as they go down the journey for themselves to getting vaccinated. If there's, I'm assuming, I think the most important thing I feel like I've heard is just talk with each other, talk with your healthcare providers, talk with your fellow healthcare frontline workers, because, you know, we've been through this. The vaccine was prioritized for healthcare workers, and, you know, many of us have shared our experience of what it's been, and I think that we need to continue to create this space for each other and those we care for. So I, again, thank you so much to Dr. Dunn and Michelle Guzman. As you guys mentioned, we will continue to share resources. You know, within Massachusetts is Trust the Facts, Get the Vax from the DPH's website. The 1199 website has information as well on, you know, our frontline news. Talk with your healthcare provider, especially that nurse that you love more than your doctor or nurse practitioner. Just please continue to, you know, we want to make sure that people have the accurate information. As you mentioned, there's a lot of misinformation. We want to make sure that people feel informed so they can make a decision that's best for them. If there's no other final comments, I want to again thank you both so much for taking the time, because I hope, you know, we impacted, you know, our, you know, sharing our experiences. It really impacts people to make decisions, not just for themselves, but those who they care for. And that includes patients, residents, consumers, and their own family.
That's right.
All right. So I'm going to